There's a new sheriff in town, and he is not playing around. President-elect Trump is announcing that on day one, he will impose a 25% tariff on all products from Mexico and Canada if they do not take action to stop the flow of migrants and illicit fentanyl flooding into our country. He also wants to slap an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods. Trump's opening salvo already has Canada and Mexico scrambling to negotiate. Mexico's president now claims that migrant caravans are no longer reaching the border. And just 2 hours after Trump posted the threats, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau hopped on a phone call with the president-elect. Watch.
It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
And the new sheriff has an enforcer. Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, he's on the ground today in Eagle Pass, Texas, along with Governor Greg Abbott, to get a firsthand look at the crisis that's seen wave after wave of migrants pour across, including 50 unaccompanied children just last night. Homan telling folks to get ready.
President Trump's one bad president to secure this border at a level we've never seen before. Biden's the first president in the history of this nation who came into office and unsecured the border on purpose. Game on. Time to get this done.
Trump's borders are also putting Democrats on notice who are promising to resist his immigration plans.
I'm sending a message for the people that said they're going to get in our way. They're going to stop us from doing what we're doing on the interior enforcement operation. I've said 100 times in the last week, don't cross that line. It is a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. Don't test us. The nation wants a safe country. We've had enough crime in this country, illegal alien crime. It's time to end it and stop it.
So we get our rundown around 11 a.m. every day. And the thing I've been looking forward to the most is another debate about tariffs between Harold and Jesse Waters. So, Harold, let me let you start, Harold, and tell me what you think about this.
Good to be back. The president, during the campaign, was crystal clear about his position on tariffs. He said two things that I thought were interesting. One, he believes that bilateral relations and negotiations with tariffs will help him extract concessions from countries, be it on this border security or economic security. I think some of the threats that the president's put down, or I should say the challenges that he's put down the table today, you have to also remember that the other side knows the president also. They've read the book, The Art of the Deal, that they understand that he has said that he is going to look to extract things from other countries. I'm rooting for him. I'm a strong believer, though, that tariffs usually don't work. If you are looking to incite the other side to raise prices, or you accept that there's a risk that they will raise prices on American goods, you basically just double up the price increases. Now, my pal Jesse and I have had this conversation on air and off air, and I know that his belief is that President Trump will do this the right way, that President Trump will walk right up to the edge and not go unconditional tariffs everywhere. I hope you're right. And I have greater confidence now that Scott Bessent is the designee for Treasury Secretary. One last thing, Dana, I hope that, I said it last night, I think that the border czar chief, and last night we talked about the mayor of Denver, some of his comments, they both sound like, again, they're trying out or auditioning for a Clint Eastwood movie or auditioning for a role in Tom Cruise's movies. Just do your job. I mean, the don't test us, the threats, the bluster, I think some of that is fine. But at the end of the day, the American people, I'm one of them. I'm part of that 70% that want to see smart deportations. I'm part of that 70% that believes we should have a very, very different border policy. But what I'm not for is this kind of kid stuff. I hope the president's right. I hope his tariffs work. But if they don't, I hope he's able to pivot and do something that will lower prices for everyday Americans.
So President Trump utilizing his leverage and giving them some runway to say, like, this is happening on day one. But within 12 hours, the president of Mexico, she's relatively new, only been there a few months. She said, okay, I'll stop the caravans from coming through.
Permission to make an analogy?
Oh, okay, sure.
You want to hold my hand or you going to?
This is a safe one, unlike yesterday. Let's say Jesse Jr.'s room is a mess, and it's been like that for 2 weeks. And my wife, Emma, who I love, but this is just an analogy, has been soft and has not made him clean up his room. So now Jesse Sr. comes home and says, Jesse Jr., if you don't have that room cleaned up by 6 o'clock, no allowance. Okay? Now, there's no need to panic. It's not 6 o'clock yet. He may clean up the room. He may get his allowance. And if he doesn't do it, then he'll survive. All this is a threat that there will be consequences. That's all this is. Now, Emma, again, my wife, who I love, just is just an analogy, can't complain. She has no right to complain because what she's done has not worked. Just like Biden and the Wall Street Democrats can't complain either because what they've done with Mexico and China has not worked either. So, Harold, I think you have to sit this one out, and all these people running their mouths about tariffs have to sit this out because this is Donald Trump's deal. If you have a guy who had 4 years with no inflation and tariffs, how can you say now tariffs are going to drive up inflation? You can't. What he's doing now also, as a reminder, we're about to renegotiate USMCA. And he's going in day one with a very strong negotiation position now. He's adding a national security component to this, fentanyl and migration. And remember, we do tariffs for national security stuff all the time, like steel. We threw up tariffs on steel and aluminum because, heaven forbid, anything happens with Taiwan. You don't want to have to rely on Chinese steel imports when you're in the middle of a war in the Pacific. That's just stupid. Chinese EV manufacturers are building plants in Mexico. Do you think Trump's going to tolerate that? They're going to sneak around import duties and try to ship cheap EVs and flood the U.S. market? Hell no. So this happens all of the time. I'm not worried about it. And if I hear one more word out of you, Harold, we're never speaking again.
Tariffs.
Judge, let me turn it over to you. I was like, there's 20 different questions I could ask you, but let me just turn it over to see what you want to talk about.
Well, I appreciate that. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this isn't Hollywood. And I love you, Harold. You know that.
God, better get out that Tom Cruise jacket and put a suit on.
Tom Homan is not overdoing it. And America has waited for someone like Tom Homan for a long time. And it's, I think, 3/4. It's more than 70%. Almost 75% of Americans think that Donald Trump has to prioritize these deportations. And when Tom Homan talks about 8 U.S.C. Code 1324, Section 3, where an alien has come or entered or remains in the United States in violation of the law, and you conceal, harbor, or shield them from detection, or you can attempt to do the same, you are guilty of a felony. So this guy who's dancing around the mayor of Denver, I mean, he's a joke. This is all going to end. He's trying to get some attention because that guy right there on the screen is dead serious. He's going to have a Department of Justice with Pam Bondi who's going to be able to back it up. They're going to have the legal force to be able to do it. Now, let's talk about the fact that apparently China has had a death penalty for drug dealers. And apparently they've refused to make good on that death penalty statute. And Donald Trump is saying, you know what, if you're not going to use it, then we're going to add 10% on your goods as well. Now, I don't claim to be as knowledgeable on tariffs as you guys. I don't really care. What I care about is within 2 hours, Trudeau jumps, and this woman, the new prime minister or president of Mexico, is jumping. Nobody wants to lose the United States, okay? Nobody wants to lose the power, the money that we give away, and everything else. But I think that there's something significant. This is my last point, Dana, is that we get 60% of our crude oil from Canada. All right. Now, if the United States is going to be energy independent again, we have an even tougher negotiating stance with Canada because we're not going to need as much of that crude oil when we start doing our own dance here.
It's interesting. And I also think that this puts into stark relief, Charlie, the weakness and recklessness of the Biden administration and what they did for 4 years.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, as time goes on, I find the tariffs thing to be more and more maybe my favorite thing about Donald Trump. Obviously, you know, tariffs don't necessarily work if you're just in it for a tariff war with another country. Of course, if you get into it with Mexico, it's going to work for us because it's going to hurt them so much more than it hurts us. It gets a little more complicated if you're going against a more equal trading partner. But the point of it is, and this is what I love about it, the creativity of it, is the fact that it's not for the sake of a tariff war, it's about trying to get something else done. And the United States, for all of time, has sent billions and kabillions of dollars to countries that hate us, trying to get them to do stuff we want. We've bombed them because we liked them, trying to get them to do stuff that we want. And none of it works. And Donald Trump recognizes that, you know what, as a negotiator, as a very creative negotiator, this is something that I can do to do things that the American people want, like close the border, end the war in Ukraine, or whatever our other interests are. And other countries understand it because our interests are, number one, America's interest, as opposed to some complicated thing about how we're going to buy your country and fix it up and do something and then you'll be our friend, and that never works. So as time goes on, I've gotten to where the tariffs thing is maybe the most interesting thing about Donald Trump.
All right,
But
Charlie.
you do know that China said they would retaliate also and raise tariffs. I mean, they actually are the most equal partner we have because they own so much of our debt. But I hear you. I'm rooting for the president. I'm rooting for the president to get this right.
But on the side issues that we want them to cooperate, like fentanyl, then they don't want the tariff war either. And so if we have a side issue like fentanyl and we're both incentivized to end the tariff war, then that works.
I will say that I will score your analogy as very, very good too.
Thank you very much, because we've had some bad scores recently.
Pretty good, and probably no headlines out of that.
Yeah, good.
All right.
that's good.
Coming up, Kamala is back from political exile and speaking out for the first time on her crushing defeat.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.